In the dim hush of a city that never quite sleeps, Maya Ortega carries the weight of unspoken words, her heart a fragile bridge between loyalty and longing. What begins as a simple confession unravels the threads of a life she thought secure, pulling her toward truths that blur the line between fidelity and the ache for something more. As the booth's shadows close in, the camera lingers on Maya's face. The camera lingers on Maya's face, soft light pooling in the hollows of her cheeks. The confessional booth, a stark box of raw wood, an unflinching lens. She shifts in the chair, fingers tracing the rim of an empty coffee mug, its porcelain cool against her skin, a relic from this morning's routine, now drained and forgotten on the table between her and the unseen interviewer. The mug stares back, innocuous, but it pulls at something inside her, a quiet echo of the warmth that's gone missing. "I've been with Julian for 7 years," she starts, voice steady but threaded with hesitation, like a thread snagging on fabric. "It's good, stable. We have our rhythms. The way he leaves the mug out for me in the mornings, half full if he's up first. But lately, it feels hollow, like I'm holding on to this warmth that's not quite there anymore." Her eyes flick to the mug, and she pauses, the uncertainty coiling in her chest, a vague fog she can't name yet. The light catches the faint lines around her mouth as she leans forward, the words tumbling out slower now, edged with a growing unease. "It's not about fighting or anything dramatic. We don't. But there's this distance creeping in, and I think it's because part of me is looking elsewhere. Not physically, no, nothing like that. But emotionally, there's someone new at work, Amara. We talk, really talk, about things Julian and I skim over. It feels alive, seen, and it scares me because..." She trails off, her breath catching, the anxiety sharpening into focus, no longer a blur, but a blade against her ribs. She sets the mug down with a soft clink, its emptiness mirroring the ache she can't ignore anymore. The gap widening between the life she has and the pull she feels. Is that betrayal? This pull toward someone else, when our bodies never crossed a line, when all that's wandered is my heart? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, the camera pulling back as her gaze drifts, the booth suddenly too small for the weight of it. As the confessional fades, the scene shifts to the next morning. The morning light filtered through the half-drawn blinds of their co-living apartment, casting striped shadows across the kitchen counter. Maya stood at the sink, rinsing a single plate from last night's half-eaten dinner, her movements mechanical, like a reel of film looping on repeat. Julian was already at the table, scrolling through his tablet, the soft clink of his spoon against a cereal bowl, the only sound breaking the hush. 3 years in this urban nest, and mornings like this felt like a well-worn script. Comfortable, predictable, empty. She glanced at him, the words bubbling up unbidden. "Julian, do you ever feel like we're just going through the motions?" Her voice was tentative, laced with the ache she'd been carrying for weeks, a quiet storm she couldn't name. He looked up, mid-bite, his smile automatic, patient as ever. "Motions? Babe, this is us. Stable. Good." He reached for the coffee pot, pouring into his mug, the one with the chipped rim they'd bought on a whim in Mexico. Steam rose briefly, then nothing. He took a sip, frowned, and set it down. Empty. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Forgot to brew it again. I'll grab some on the way to the office." Maya's chest tightened, the alienation settling deeper, a cold fog between them. She wanted to push, to shatter the routine with her fraying edges, but his ease walled her off. Instead, She nodded, drying her hands on a towel that smelled faintly of yesterday's rain. The distance wasn't new, but this morning it hummed like a live wire, dangerous in its silence. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A work alert. Amara Blake, the new collaborator on the docuseries project. Morning sync, coffee shop down the block. Got ideas that won't wait. Maya's fingers hovered, a spark igniting. Amara's messages always carried that undercurrent, alive with questions that Julian's steadiness never touched. She typed back quickly, "On my way." As she grabbed her bag, Julian glanced over, oblivious. "New partner sounds intense. Everything okay?" "Yeah," Maya said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just different." She stepped out into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind her, the empty mug lingering in her mind like an unspoken accusation. Was this rift wide enough to swallow them whole, or just a shadow waiting for light? The elevator descended, and with it, a wary pull toward whatever Amara's world might hold. No names needed to feel the shift. Later, in the production studio, the focus turns to an interview. The camera lingers on Dr. Elias Ford in the dim glow of the interview room, a soft lamp casting shadows that etch lines of quiet authority across his face. He's mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses perched on a thoughtful nose, his voice steady like a therapist's metronome, calm but insistent. Off-screen, Maya watches from the shadows of the production booth, her fingers twisting an idle pen, the faint hum of monitors underscoring her pulse. Emotional infidelity, Dr. Ford begins, leaning forward, isn't about stolen kisses or hotel rooms. It's the slow bleed of intimacy elsewhere. Markers? Secrecy, first. You share vulnerabilities with someone outside your partnership that you withhold from the one you're committed to. Prioritization. Your thoughts drift to them, carving out space that erodes the foundation at home. And the emotional high, that rush of being truly seen, which feels innocent until it hollows out what's already there. Maya's breath catches, a hidden knot in her chest tightening. She's thought of it as harmless. Late-night texts with Amara, confessions scribbled in that shared notebook, laughs that echo deeper than Julian's morning coffee chats. But now, words pin it down. Infidelity, not a fling, but a fracture. Her mind races. Is this what she's been circling, unnamed? The red thread she imagines sometimes, that invisible pull between her and Amara, binding yet taut, threatening to snag on Julian's steady hand. Dr. Ford's eyes meet the lens, as if addressing her directly. Psychologically, the stakes are profound. It rewires trust. You're not just risking discovery. You're inviting a betrayal of self. The heart wanders, and suddenly, loyalty isn't about bodies. It's about where your soul invests. Can we control it? Name it, yes, but containment, that's the illusion. Maya shifts in her seat, anxiety blooming into something sharper, named fear. Fear that naming it makes it real, uncontrollable. The booth feels smaller, the thread pulling tighter. If words can cage this, why does it still slip free? The day progresses into the afternoon collaboration. The afternoon light filtered through the co-living space's tall windows, casting long shadows across the cluttered coffee table. Maya and Amara hunched over their laptops, the hum of the city outside a distant murmur. They were deep into the creative project, a multimedia pitch for a client's emotional wellness campaign. Sketches and notes scattered like fallen leaves. "See here," Amara said, her voice steady but warm, pointing to a mood board, pinned with Polaroids of blurred faces, eyes half closed in quiet revelation. It's not just visuals. It's that pull, the way someone looks at you, and suddenly, You're not alone in your head anymore. Maya nodded, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. Neutral at first, the conversation had started with logistics, deadlines, color palettes, target demographics, but Amara had a way of weaving in the personal, like threads, pulling tighter. Maya's chest felt lighter, the words landing like rain on parched soil. She glanced at her phone. No messages from Julian since morning. The routine text about dinner plans sat unanswered in her drafts. They shifted to the shared notebook, a worn leather journal Amara had pulled from her bag earlier. Let's jot ideas the old way, she'd suggested, flipping it open. No screens, just pen on paper. Maya hesitated, but the invitation felt safe. A bridge over the project's abstract demands. Amara wrote first. What if the campaign asked, "What do you carry that's too heavy to say aloud?" She slid the notebook across, her dark eyes meeting Maya's with a spark of curiosity, not judgment. Maya's pen hovered. Her mind flickered to Julian, the empty coffee mug from their morning. How his kiss had felt obligatory, a habit worn thin. The distance with him yawned wider with each passing hour here. But Amara's gaze held her steady. She wrote, the fear that saying it makes it real, like longing for a mirror when your reflection's gone blurry. Amara read it, her lips curving softly. That's it. That's the heart of it. She leaned in, adding her own line beneath. Mirrors don't lie, but they show what we've hidden from ourselves. Their hands brushed as she passed it back, accidental, fleeting. But Maya's pulse quickened. This exchange, these confessions in ink, fed something starved in her. Sincerity bloomed, validating the ache she'd buried. Yet it scared her too, a quiet alarm sounding in the back of her mind. How do you voice the inner hollow without shoving away the one who's finally close enough to see it? The question lingered, unspoken, as Maya closed the notebook, the weight of its pages heavier now. Amara smiled, oblivious to the storm brewing behind Maya's eyes, and they dove back into the work, the air between them charged with an intimacy that felt both lifeline and ledge. The tension builds back at home the following morning. The morning light filtered through the half-drawn blinds of their shared apartment, casting long shadows across the kitchen counter. Julian stood by the sink, rinsing his mug under the faucet, the ceramic cool and unyielding in his grip. He glanced at Maya, who was scrolling through her phone at the breakfast nook, her fingers tapping absently. The routine felt heavier today, like the air itself had thickened overnight. Hey, he said, drying the mug and setting it down with a soft clink. It landed empty, a forgotten prop from yesterday's hurried coffee. You seem off lately. Everything okay at work? Maya's eyes flicked up, then back to her screen. A notification pinged. Amara, sharing a draft of their project notes. She felt a quiet pull, like a thread tugging at her sleeve. Yeah, just busy, she replied, her voice even, practiced. Inside, a flicker of anxiety stirred, noticed now in the way Julian's shoulders tensed, the way he lingered by the counter instead of grabbing his keys. He stepped closer, leaning against the edge of the table. It's not just work, is it? We've been drifting. I miss talking to you. Really, talking. His words hung there, earnest, probing the space between them. He reached for her hand, but she shifted, tucking her phone away and standing to rinse her own plate. I'm fine, Julian. Really, we've got that stability, you know. It's good. But even as she said it, the words tasted hollow, echoing the emptiness of that mug on the counter, once warm, now just a vessel waiting to be filled elsewhere. Her mind drifted to Amara's last message, the way their late-night brainstorming had unraveled into confessions about dreams deferred, vulnerabilities shared, like secrets, in a notebook. It wasn't anything physical, just seen, felt. Julian's face softened with worry, then hardened into quiet frustration. Maya, if something's pulling you away, tell me. I don't want to guess. She forced a smile, grabbing her laptop bag. It's nothing. I've got to meet Amara for the project. We'll talk later, okay? She brushed past him, the door clicking shut behind her, like a period at the end of an unfinished sentence. In the hallway, alone, Maya's steps slowed. How do you explain the void in these mornings without shattering the fragile hold of what remains? She didn't know, and the silence grew colder, wrapping around her like frost. Interwoven with the personal moments, the documentary montage unfolds. The camera cuts like a heartbeat, erratic and insistent, weaving through faces lit by the harsh glow of confessional lamps. First, a woman in her 40s, fingers twisting a loose thread on her sleeve. Red, frayed, pulling at the seam. It started with late-night texts, she says, voice cracking like thin ice. Just sharing dreams, you know. But every word felt like a secret door cracking open. I never touched him, but my heart was already slipping through. Maya watches from the green room, her reflection in the monitor a ghost of herself, eyes wide, unblinking. The uncertainty coils in her chest, a vague fog she can't name. But one day, you realize you've built a whole other life in whispers. It betrayed us both. Me to him to his family. No kisses, no lies in bed. But the guilt, it ate me alive. The montage quickens, faces blurring, voices overlapping in a chorus of quiet admissions. Felt like stealing time. Hearts don't lie like bodies do. I lost myself trying to stay loyal. Maya's breath catches, the fog sharpening into something pointed. Anxiety, raw and naming itself. These aren't just tales. They're her justifications crumbling, one echoed regret at a time. Julian's face flashes in her memory, off-screen still, his patient questions unanswered. Amara, though, Amara mirrors back the pull, the red thread tightening, not breaking, but straining against the life she's built. Can she hear this chorus and still pretend her own whispers are harmless? The screen fades to static, leaving the question to echo in the silence of her thoughts. Seeking clarity, Maya turns to therapy. The therapy room hummed with the soft tick of a wall clock, its muted tones blending into the dim glow of a single lamp. Maya sat on the edge of the leather armchair, her fingers twisting the frayed corner of a shared notebook, its pages filled with hurried sketches and confessions from late-night sessions with Amara. She hadn't meant to bring it here, but it had slipped into her bag like a guilty secret, now resting heavy in her lap. Dr. Elias leaned forward in his chair, his glasses perched low on his nose, eyes steady but unjudging. "Tell me about this closeness with Amara," he said, voice even, like a gentle probe into fog. Maya's throat tightened, guilt coiling in her chest like smoke. It's not what it seems. We talk, that's all, about ideas, dreams, the things Julian and I used to share before everything got so routine." Her words tumbled out, laced with the familiar ache. Julian's laugh echoed in her mind, distant now, from mornings when he'd pour coffee into that empty mug, both of them pretending the hollowness wasn't there. But with her, I feel seen, alive, and it scares me because what if this is betrayal, even without touching, without crossing that line? The doctor nodded, scribbling a note. Guilt often arrives first, Maya. It's a signal. But confession isn't just unloading. It's owning the why. Are you here to name this emotional pull, or to ease the weight by saying it aloud? She flipped open the notebook, tracing a line of Amara's handwriting. What if vulnerability isn't weakness? Her pulse quickened. I tell myself it's harmless. Julian doesn't know, and nothing physical happened. But lying to him in silence, it's eroding us. I fear he'll see me as the villain, unfaithful in ways I can't undo. The guilt pressed harder, hot tears pricking her eyes. But as she spoke, a fragile acceptance stirred, careful, like testing thin ice. Naming it aloud pulled the fears from their rationalized haze. They weren't monsters anymore, just truths demanding shape. Elias tilted his head. And responsibility? Does admitting this to me shift it from you, or does it clarify what loyalty means for you now? Maya closed the notebook, the leather creaking softly. The question hung between them, unanswered, a red thread tugging at unseen knots. The emotional layers deepen in a later meeting with Amara. The dim glow of a desk lamp cast long shadows across the cluttered co-working space, where sketches and coffee stains marked the hours. Maya and Amara sat knee to knee on the worn leather couch, the shared notebook open between them like a fragile bridge. Pages fluttered slightly from the AC's hum, revealing hurried notes, phrases like unspoken anchors and threads that bind without touching. Amara's fingers hovered over the last entry, her dark eyes flickering with something unsteady. She traced the edge of the page, not writing, just stalling. Maya, she started, voice low, laced with a tremor that pulled at the air. This, us. It's like we're sketching something real here, isn't it? But I keep thinking about him. Julian, the way we're pulling at these invisible lines. Maya's breath caught, her hand pausing mid-flip of a page. The notebook felt heavier now, its confessions a weight she couldn't ignore. Amara's words hung, stirring the knot in Maya's chest, the guilt she'd been circling like a shadow. I don't want to be the ghost in your story, Amara continued, her voice cracking on the edge of anxiety, eyes darting to the floor. The one who slips in without a sound, disrupts everything without even trying. We haven't crossed any lines that show, but this bond, it pulls, it matters, and I'm scared it's enough to unravel what you have. The admission landed soft but sharp, Amara's shoulders slumping as the fear gave way to raw acknowledgement. She met Maya's gaze, unflinching now, the vulnerability mirroring back like a held breath. Maya felt it echo in her own ribs, the thrill of being seen warring with the ache of divided loyalties. The notebook lay open, a silent witness to the tangle, its pages whispering of connections that didn't need skin to sting. Maya swallowed, words failing her. Could they hold this without shattering the safety Julian offered? The question lingered, unanswered, as the lamp flickered once, pulling the room into sharper relief. The confrontation finally arrives at home. The dim light of their co-living kitchen filtered through half-drawn blinds, casting long shadows across the worn wooden table. Maya sat rigid, her fingers twisting the frayed edge of a red thread bracelet she'd absent-mindedly looped around her wrist weeks ago. A remnant from Amara's shared notebook project, a silly metaphor for invisible ties. It felt like a noose now, binding her to truths she could no longer evade. Julian stood by the counter, pouring coffee into the empty mug that symbolized their mornings. Routine, comforting, hollow. His back was to her, shoulders tense under the faded t-shirt she'd bought him 2 anniversaries ago. Maya, what's this about? You've been distant. Guilt clawed at her chest, a familiar ache that had bloomed in stolen moments with Amara. Late-night confessions scribbled in that notebook, words that pierced the numbness she'd ignored in their bed. No bodies had tangled, No lines crossed in flesh, but her soul had wandered, starved for the resonance Julian's steady patience couldn't quite reach. She swallowed, the words tasting like ash. I've been unfair to you, to us. He turned, mug in hand, steam curling like unspoken accusations. His eyes, usually soft with the quiet assurance, sharpened. Unfair how? Talk to me. Her voice cracked, the guilt flooding out in a rush. It's Amara, our project. It started professional, but the notebook, the things we wrote, shared, it became more. She sees me, Julian, the parts I've buried under our routines. My heart's been aching for that depth, and I let it pull me in. Not physically, God, never that, but emotionally. It's like I've been cheating on the silence between us. The mug trembled in his grip, coffee sloshing over the rim. Pain etched his face, raw and unguarded, a mirror to her own unraveling. Cheating? Without even touching? Maya, how do I even process that? He set the mug down hard, the thud echoing her fracturing resolve. The red thread caught the light. A thin crimson line stretched taut between them, whispering of bonds that could bind or break. She leaned forward, tears blurring her vision, but a spark ignited beneath the shame. Determination, sharp as a blade. This was her choice now, to name the drift, to take the weight. I'm scared, Julian. Scared of losing you, of this stability we've built, but hiding it. That's the real betrayal. I need you to know my needs, the emotional hunger I've ignored, and I need to know if we can redefine this, set boundaries that let me be honest without shattering us. He sank into the chair opposite, rubbing his temples, the silence stretching like that thread on the verge of snap. I feel betrayed, like I've been holding space for someone who's already half gone. His voice softened, edged with vulnerability. But you're here now, laying it out. So what do we do? How do we trust again when your heart's been elsewhere? Maya reached across, her fingers brushing his, the red thread a fragile bridge. The question hung unspoken in the air between them. Could acknowledgement mend what drift had torn? Or was trust's fragile weave already too frayed? In the final confessional, resolution emerges. The camera lingers on Maya's face in the confessional booth. Soft light carving shadows under her eyes. She's composed, hands folded, but her fingers twitch. A silent admission. The interviews wind down. Dr. Elias's measured voice fades. Guests' stories echo like distant thunder. Now it's her turn, the raw core. I chose to tell Julian everything, Maya says, voice steady at first, laced with the resolve that's carried her here. The words feel like cutting a thread, but not severing it. Not because I crossed some physical line. No, that's not it. But because this pull toward Amara made me see how I'd let our mornings hollow out. The empty mug on the counter, staring back at me like a question I couldn't answer. She pauses, eyes drifting to the red thread embroidered on the booth's curtain, a faint, looping design, like veins under skin. It catches the light, binding nothing yet everything. In her mind, it unspools, the invisible tether to Amara's confessions in their shared notebook, the one that wrapped around her heart without warning, pulling her from Julian's patient gaze. She'd rationalized it, told herself loyalty was skin deep, but naming it, emotional infidelity, had unraveled the lie. Julian had listened that night, hurt, etching his face. No easy forgiveness. Amara had stepped back, her texts sparse now. The triangle reshaping into something jagged but honest. Maya's chest tightens, determination frays into a light anxiety, a whisper of doubt. What if this clarity costs more than it saves? She thinks of the viewers out there, in their own tangled lives, scrolling through feeds that glorify soul-deep bonds while preaching monogamy. So I set a boundary, she continues, the words deliberate, probing her own edges. Not walls, but lines I draw with intention. Emotional space isn't betrayal if it's honest, but hiding it. That's the real cut. Her voice wavers, just a breath, as if testing the weight of this new responsibility. How does it sound, really? Claiming your heart's drift without shame, yet fearing the echo. The frame pulls back, her reflection voiceover layering over analog footage. City lights blurring like tears, a red thread glinting in the rain-slicked street. Loyalty isn't just bodies staying true, it's hearts choosing, every day. What does yours need to say? The screen fades, the question hanging, unanswered, in the quiet.